I was driving down the quiet road that led to my family's lake cave in the back of my pickup loaded with lumber, paint cans, and some plumbing supplies. The morning air smelled like pine and rain, and I remember feeling proud. This cabin had been in my family for decades, and I was finally restoring it myself. The sun was peeking through the trees, and for once it felt like everything was going right. But then as I pulled into the narrow dirt path leading to the dock, I noticed a familiar figure standing near the neighborhood gate. Karen, every HOA community had one, but ours had her always lurking, always watching, like she thought she was the sheriff of the forest. She had that same stiff posture, clipboard in one hand, phone in the other. I could already tell she was plotting something. I tried to ignore her as I drove past, but I could see her lips moving. She was already taking pictures of my truck. I sighed and muttered to myself, here we go again. I parked by the cave-in, stepped out, and started unloading my supplies, boards, boxes, pipes, and everything I'd saved up for weeks to buy. I had even lifted the third box when I heard her voice, sharp and condescending, slicing through the calm air like a blade. "Excuse me, what do you think you're doing?" I turned, squinting at her through the morning sun. "Fixing my cabin, Karen," I said, trying to stay calm. She strutted closer, her phone still recording. "You can't bring construction materials here without HOA approval." She snapped. "Those supplies are community property. If left unattended, I could have them." Remove. My jaw dropped. "Community property,
Current, I bought these with my own money." I pointed to my truck, where the receipt was taped to a box that's theft. "You touched them." But she just smirked. "Oh, I don't think so. You people always claim things that don't belong to you." Her words burned. I felt the anger rising, but I took a deep breath. "Karen, step back. You don't have the right to take my stuff," I said firmly, but she didn't listen. She actually stepped closer and touched one of my lumber planks as if marking it. "This looks like an unapproved structure.
You'll have to report this, and if you leave these supplies unattended, the HOA has the right to confiscate them." My hands clenched around the handle of the box I was carrying. "Karen, if you so much as move one nail, I'll call the sheriff myself." Then she said something that made my blood run cold. "You won't need to. I already called to have told them someone was dumping stolen property near the lake." My heart stopped for a second. What I could hear the faint wail of sirens in the distance. Already she smiled, arms crossed, clearly proud of herself.
"Let's see how your little day project goes when the cops arrive. Maybe you'll learn some respect for the rules." I froze there, staring at her smug face. The sirens grew louder, echoing off the water. My hands trembled, not from fear, but from disbelief. I hadn't done a single thing wrong.
All I wanted was to fix my family's cabin, and now I was about to be accused of theft on my own property. I looked down at my dad's old cabin, at the half-finished porch and the boxes of tools, and I knew one thing: I wasn't going to let Karen get away with this, not this time.
The flashing red and blue lights reflected off the surface of the lake as two sheriff's deputies pulled up. My stomach was in knots, but I stood tall beside my truck. Karen was already talking to them, waving her arms dramatically like some self-appointed witness.
"Yes, officers, that's him," she said, pointing straight at me. "Has been bringing in stolen construction materials all morning. I saw him unloading them from an unmarked truck. It's suspicious, don't you think?" One of the deputies glanced at me, then at her. "Ma'am, calm down. We'll sort this out." When they approached me, I tried to steady my voice. "Officers, my name's Mark Laws, and this is my family's cabin. My grandfather built it.
"I've got receipts for every single supply here in the truck." I opened the door and showed them the folder I kept with all my purchase slips, even the delivery confirmation from the hardware store. One of them nodded, flipping through it.
The other turned back toward Karen, who was glaring at me like it just ruined her favorite. "Shall, ma'am," he said to her. "These all check out." Karen scoffed, folding her arms. "Oh, please, anyone can print fake receipts. He doesn't even live here full time. We have rules about who can perform construction." The deputy gave her a tired look. "That's a HOA matter, not a criminal one. You called, but saying there was stolen property. That's a serious accusation." Her face twitched slightly, but she didn't back down. "Well, I thought it was suspicious," she barked him, "just trying to keep this community safe from outsiders." That word, outsiders, hit like a slap. I felt my patience breaking. "Karen," I said, stepping forward, "you've harassed half this neighborhood for years.
You can't just decide. People don't belong here. She turned toward me, her voice dripping with arrogance. I am on the HOA. That means I decide what's acceptable here. The deputies exchanged glances. One of them leaned toward her.
Being on the HOA doesn't give you authority to file false police reports, ma'am. That's Mrs. of Emergency Services. For the first time I saw her expression falter, her fawn lowered slightly. The officer continued, if we find this call was made under false pretenses, there could be fines, or worse. Her voice cracked. You can talk to me like that. I know the sheriff personally. The deputy smiled wryly.
Ma'am, I am the sheriff. Karen's eyes widened, her mouth opening and closing with no words coming out. The tension in the air broke slightly as the deputy handed me back my papers. Sorry for the trouble, Merlawson. You're good to go.
Enjoy fixing your cabin. But I wasn't ready to let it end there, Sheriff. I said quietly, this isn't the first time she's done this. She's harassed delivery drivers, neighbors, even accused the teenager of trespassing just for fishing by the lake. He nodded slowly. I've heard of her, he said. We've had a few complaints before. Karen's face turned pale. This is a misunderstanding, she snapped. I was just enforcing community rules. But the sheriff shook his head. You don't enforce laws, ma'am. You follow them. She looked like she might explode, her fingers gripping that clipboard so tightly her knuckles went white. I could see the realization dawning on her face. She'd gone too far this time. But before anyone could say more, she suddenly turned, stormed back toward her golf cart, and off down the gravel road, tires kicking up dust. The sheriff sighed. Well, handle her, he said. You just keep your receipts handy in case the hoe comes poking around again. I nodded. But as I watched Karen disappear around the bend, I have feeling this wasn't over, not even close. The next morning, I woke up to the sound of footsteps outside my cabin. For a split second I thought maybe it was the sheriff following up. But when I looked through the window, I saw 3 HOA board members standing in a neat little triangle near my truck, and right in the middle, wearing oversized sunglasses and pretending to be calm, was Karen. She wasn't done. I stepped outside, coffee in hand, keeping my tone level. Morning, can I help you? The man beside her, some smug-looking HOA rip named Grade, held out a clipboard. Merlawson, the board received a complaint about unauthorized construction and possible zoning violations. We're here to inspect. My stomach tightened. You mean Karen's complaint? I said flatly. Karen crossed her arms, smirking. We're just following procedure, Mar. You can't build anything permanent without HOA approval, and since you haven't submitted proper plans, that's because this cabin predates the HOA. I interrupted. It's private property, not part of your jurisdiction. Greg frowned, flipping through his papers.
Hectically, the association boundary covers this entire lakeside section. I shook my head, already pulling a folder from the porch table. You might want to check the deed. My grandfather bought this land in it. That's almost 20 years before your HOA even existed. I handed him the documents. He scanned them, his confident expression starting to fade. Karen leaned forward, her tone sharp. Those could be fake. I laughed bitterly. You said that yesterday about my receipts too. Remember? She stiffened, but kept going. Well, still be filing an injunction to review property claims. You can't just do whatever you want here. My patience snapped. Karen, you called the cops on me for fixing my own home. You accuse me of theft. You've broken into other people's mailboxes just to check complaints. You're not a community leader. You're a bully. With a clipboard, her face flushed red. That's slander, she shouted. Greg tried to calm her down, but she pushed past him and jabbed her finger toward me. You'll regret talking to me like that. The HOA has power, and we will take this kid, and if it violates code. That was the final straw. I pulled out my phone, opened my camera roll, and hit play. Her voice came pouring out from the video I recorded the day before. Every word she'd said when she called about his dumping stolen property near the lakes, and someone fast. The HOA reps went dead silent. The sheriff had mailed me the call transcript that morning after I filed a formal complaint. I held it up. You accused me of a crime, Karen, falsely. That's harassment, defamation, and the misuse of emergency services. My lawyer already has copies. Her sunglasses slipped down her nose, and for the first time she didn't have anything to say. Greg muttered something about needing to review this internally and backed up.